Welcome to Game 1 of our Thursday doubleheader here on the SEC Network. We're at the home of the South Carolina Gamecocks in Columbia, South Carolina, the number 1 team in the country. The number 1 player in the country, Aaliyah Boston, ready to go. Destiny Henderson has been on point, at the point. It's South Carolina, and it is Auburn as we welcome you to SEC Network Women's Basketball, presented by Regions. Inside Colonial Life Arena here in Columbia, just about ready for the opening tip between the Tigers and the Gamecocks. Great to have you with us with Christy Thomas-Scuddy. I'm Eric Freed. Well, it's 11 wins in a row now for the number 1 team in the country, South Carolina. But don't forget, Auburn is a team that handed Tennessee, then the first place team in the SEC, their first loss in conference play earlier this season.
Well, this is a dangerous Auburn team because they have 6 losses in SEC play, all by 6 points or less. They've got to learn to finish. And for South Carolina, Dawn Staley's looking, and this is scary, for their first complete game of the season.
Well, one player that has a complete game and continues to show it night after night is Aaliyah Boston.
All-American a year ago is only elevating her game. How has she done that? She's more explosive. She's fit. She's impossible to double team because her footwork is so quick, so explosive, and she's always moving. Her points per game are up. Rebounds are up. Field goal shooting percentage is up. All the way around, she is better this season. Which is a scary thought. You see the numbers in 18 straight double-doubles coming into the game here today. But perhaps the most improved player in the SEC is Aisha Coulibaly for Auburn. Aisha Coulibaly only averaged 5 points a year ago. In her last 5 games, she's averaging 20 points. How? Because if you go big against her, she's blowing by the defenders. So explosive off the bounce. Can step out, knock down the 3. Is impossible to guard in the open floor because of her agility. And if you go small, she's going to attack the offensive glass.
She'll try to do that in front of a big, loud crowd here inside of CLA, and we are ready on a Thursday night for Auburn and number 1 South Carolina. Jayla Jordan set to jump center against Victoria Saxton. And we're underway here in Columbia. South Carolina takes the opening tip right back to Destiny Henderson.
Well, expect Auburn to sag off, trying to make South Carolina finish over them, not by them this evening.
Henderson's been a very good three-point shooter, tries to drive, and guess who on the putback? Boston's first 2.
And that was concern of head coach Johnny Harris, because I said, are you more worried about your defense or your rebounding? She said, our rebounding, because South Carolina is just relentless on the offensive glass.
Leading the nation in rebounding margin, a plus 17. Here is Coulibaly with an early look and an early 2. No signs of nerves from the start for the sophomore.
And this is what we talked about in the open. If you go big, Victoria Saxton on her, you got to give her a little space. And that time, Coulibaly just elevates and knocks down the jumper.
Saxton throws out the open look, and it's Zia Cook for 3.
Dawn Staley really just made it simple with her team today. If you get doubled, pass the ball. Beautiful offense by South Carolina.
Jordan with a quick 3, and here comes South Carolina. They will run off the misses. Bree Beal trying to drive and had it stripped away by Jordan. Well, Johnny Harris made it very clear to her team. She wanted them locked in, especially in these first 2 minutes of the game.
Well, I think so many times when you play the number 1 team in the country, a team like South Carolina, you lose sometimes before you step on the floor. And so she wanted her team ready to battle. And you can't win this game unless you're ready to battle from the first 2 minutes, and then you worry about the next 2.
Well, they've given up a couple of open looks from outside the three-point line. Henderson can't hit there, and she's been hitting it 41% on the season. Here's Wells. Jordan's got the big size advantage. Jordan will try it from outside again. Again, that's off the mark, and Saxton's got the rebound.
Coulibaly came up limping after that move.
Boston spinning inside, doesn't give up on it, and a second chance here for South Carolina. Coulibaly is reaching down for her left calf, and right away I think it was recognized by Carla Fountain, and she's going to stop play here because the best player for Auburn is being helped to the bench.
Coulibaly's just making a move off the bounce. And
roll
that
the ankle,
foot
yeah.
slide, you hope it's just a quick tweak of the ankle.
Cook drops in her second field goal.
We know they're the number one team. We know how dominant they've been. But, Eric, what's really scary to me is just how easy they make it look at times, how well they're executing against teams who have scouted them, who know their tendencies. This is how dialed in South Carolina has been to this point in the season.
But I thought Dawn Staley made it pretty clear earlier today, and it's a theme that she's carried on. The defense, she has no problem with. She still thinks the offense has some lulls. And you talked about it just a moment ago as Cook on the drive, but we'll go back the other way. A foul called on South Carolina, no basket.
Well, these lulls for South Carolina occur because of turnovers. And that's been the Achilles heel for South Carolina this year. But the last two games, they've done better. And this is just rebuild, not looking up as she comes down the floor. Sanaya Wells steps in her path. And you've heard this from me a number of times, Eric. I hate that call.
I'm having trouble deciphering that one myself, Christy, because the basket is good. The foul was called on Saxton, so it is 9-2 South Carolina. Why do you hate that call? In case people haven't heard it from you before, they should hear it again.
Because it's a freedom of movement. We have it on offense, yet in transition, and I think it's a safety issue for these players, both the player taking it and the player who's getting called for the foul, because basically they're running over one another.
So the foul on Boston, and we're keeping an eye on Coulibaly, who is just getting her left foot and ankle looked at. So Boston has one personal foul. Zaria Wiggins is into the game. Honestly, Scott Grayson, a player to watch, number 2 player on this team and scoring at 13 points a game. That's Wiggins setting the screen. Wiggins, a longtime veteran in the league, got Saxton in the air, and a veteran move drops into 2.
Well, I think this is what we've expected from Zaria Wiggins all season long. We know how just explosive she was at Mississippi State, just has dealt with knee injuries throughout this season.
She goes down, battling against Saxton, who gets the putback.
And so, Eric, coaches can say box out, but when you're facing a team as explosive off the bounce as South Carolina, it's not only boxing, it means get in your player and keep them from getting up above you. And this is a challenge for Auburn this evening. Not only do they give up a size advantage, they give up a depth advantage at that spot as well.
Scott Grayson is going to have a battle tonight because she's being defended by Bree Beal, and the foul is called on Auburn. Coulibaly is back on the bench. That's a good sign for Auburn, and she's sitting next to the coaching staff, which is a better sign for Auburn, which means she's letting them know she's ready to go, and she will go in. So she left the game with 7:58 to go in the first quarter. Got some treatment, and we'll keep an eye on her here to see how her movement is. Wiggins to the bench.
Auburn going to a 2-3 matchup zone. Again, just trying to pack it in.
Previous foul was on Precious Johnson, and I think she just picked up her second personal foul.
She got caught with a little body check of Boston coming across the paint.
Well, Wiggins is going to come back into the game, but Johnson will stay out there for the moment. Henderson. No, that's Lily Grissett trying to follow Boston, kept it alive, and Auburn comes away with Coulibaly off to Wells.
One of the first things, if you want to try to keep South Carolina off the glass, you have to contain dribble penetration, because when you rotate, as we just saw, that leaves players like Lily Grissett free to get to the glass.
Scott Grayson on the drive. Good strong take by the redshirt junior out of New Jersey. Cook to Henderson, another open look for 3, and this one goes down. 4 3-point attempts here in the first quarter for South Carolina. They've made 2. As I mentioned, Henderson leading the team at 41% from outside the three-point line.
Well, if you're going to go against a zone, you need to know who's guarding you, and that was a great job of realizing that the forward had come out to defend the wing, so she makes the extra pass to the corner for 3.
Coulibaly on the pull-up. Too strong, knew she missed it, followed it up. Not this time. Henderson to Boston, and Johnson with the 2 fouls. Tried to kind of change direction in midair, which is tough for someone who's 6'5" to do. And she did get called, I believe, for the foul. We'll confirm it during the timeout. 4:42 to go in the first quarter. 8-point lead for the number 1 team in the country. Welcome back to the 48th meeting all time between South Carolina and Auburn. South Carolina has won 11 in a row in the series. They've won 11 in a row this season. And before the start of tonight's game, Dawn Staley received a valuable piece of jewelry as Brianna Weiss from USA Basketball was here to present Lisa Boyer, assistant coach to Dawn Staley, video coordinator Hudson Jacobs, and Dawn Staley, their Olympic rings. When you win a gold medal in Tokyo, you get the Olympic ring. I'm trying to see if she decided to put it on because that is pretty big, and I think she just kept it in the case. But congratulations to the head coach of Team USA, Dawn Staley, getting that ring here tonight.
That's a ring where her left arm biceps can be much bigger
Yes.
by the time she gets done wearing that ring.
You do have to, I'm sure it's fitted for one finger, but you got to kind of alternate it a little bit just to keep those biceps. I mean, I know. Just,
Exactly. Well, you got the guns. I'm just saying, if I had a rock that big, I would definitely be flexing it.
So the foul was indeed on Precious Johnson. That is 3 fouls on Johnson. Grissettes with Wiggins back into the game. Here's Bree Hall into the game for South Carolina, and she'll be called for the offensive foul. Good job by Coulibaly taking the charge. And there's not a lot of margin for error for Auburn when it comes to getting into foul trouble, especially with their bigs.
No, they don't have much of it. They don't have any true depth in terms of their bigs on the post. But, Eric, we talked about Coulibaly scoring. That was a great example of just how much she does on the defensive end for the Tigers as well.
So Scott Grayson will bank this one in. Has to feel pretty happy that Bree Beal isn't on the floor right now, the top defender on the ball for South Carolina. That makes it a 6-point game. Cook looking for Saxton. Henderson back to Saxton. Can't hit the mid-range, and there's Lily Grissett. The offensive rebounds continue to pile up, but Wiggins with the clean block for Auburn.
Wiggins is giving Auburn some valuable minutes right now. Just leadership, experience in terms of going against this South Carolina club.
Coulibaly, no, and a rebound for Hall, and here comes Carolina. Cook an open 3 again.
Well, why was Cook open? Because Saxton ran the floor. Great rim run, forced the transition defense to the paint, leaving Cook open on the wing.
Auburn has 5 rebounds total. South Carolina has 8 offensive rebounds, and Saxton has 4.
Well, rebounding's been a struggle for Auburn throughout this season, but in SEC play, they're a -5 per game, and that's when you're not going against the number 1 rebounding team in the country.
They were even last time out against Florida. That was a loss on Monday, 83-77. They were down 12 with 1:45 to go. Cut it to 3. And that's one thing about Auburn that we've seen under their first-year head coach, Johnny Harris. They will keep playing for the full 40 minutes.
Well, and as I've watched Auburn throughout this conference season, each and every game, they're getting better. I'm seeing growth in individual players. Johnny Harris's frustration, she said in our last 3 losses, we made the same mistakes in the last 2 minutes of each game, not boxing out, certain turnovers. Those are the things that she's looking for her team to improve upon.
And it's also a mindset. She wants them to be aggressive, and you see a strong aggressive take by Coulibaly. She doesn't want them playing passive or timid. Here's Hall, transition 3 is short. Well, South Carolina's had the look from outside the arc, but they're 2 for 6 now. One and done for Auburn. Here's Hall.
Well, one and done because of Auburn's respect for South Carolina's transition game. So they're so worried about transition defense that no one's even crashing the offensive glass.
Inside of 2 minutes to go here in the first quarter. Cook, yes. First time South Carolina has stretched the lead to double digits tonight. Cook's been a big part of the offense so far this evening. 9 points to lead Carolina in scoring. Annie Hughes.
The help side of South Carolina has been so good to where Auburn couldn't turn the corner, but if you can't get in the paint, spot up for three.
Coulibaly, a 23% three-point shooter. She was 0 for her last 8 in the last 4 games coming in, but knocks down that 3. And a foul is called here on Coulibaly. As I mentioned, this is game 1 of our women's hoop doubleheader here on a Thursday night. Game 2 will be in Oxford. Texas A&M, winners of 3 of their last 4, will take on an Ole Miss team trying to get back on track. Back-to-back losses for the Rebels. They're now 6-5 in the conference. And Texas A&M, according to Charlie Cream, in that group of the first 4 outs when it comes to the NCAA tournament.
I mean, let's be real. Every women's basketball fan around the country wants to see Gary Blair lead his team to the NCAA tournament one more time.
But being in that first 4 out group shows you how every game is critical here down the stretch as we get closer and closer to SEC tournament time. There's Wells on the drive. Hughes with the dish.
And Eric, one thing that Auburn is doing well so far in this game is converting at the rim. Right now, 2 of 5, and those have both been by guards. So many times against South Carolina, because of their shot blocking ability, teams miss the bunnies because they're worried about getting blocked. Auburn's doing a good job of finishing to this point in the game.
First personal foul on Coulibaly. She had 15 points, 7 rebounds, but was limited to 23 minutes against Florida. Picked up her 4th foul in the 3rd quarter. So perhaps with that in mind here for Auburn, Coulibaly, she didn't even want to make eye contact for a second. That's not for me. Yeah, 26 seconds to go in the quarter. Come on out, play it smart, play it safe, and avoid that second foul. Henderson, yes.
Well, I think Johnny Harris got Coulibaly out because she saw that stack formation, which means the lob. Auburn defended the lob. They just didn't defend the inbounder.
Down to 5 to go in the quarter. Letitia Mehir is into the game for South Carolina. That shot off the mark. Mehir didn't play the last 2 games. She was with Canadian national team, so she's making a return here today. Zaya Cook with 9. Destiny Henderson with 5 for South Carolina.
Well, your point guard coming in, wrapping around, hip squared, shoulder square, bucket good.
A spectacular performance, and South Carolina has won the national championship. The Gamecocks are #1 for the first time in school history.
Well, we'll see what happens coming up in a month's time at the start of the NCAA tournament. Of course, that 2017 team going 33-4, winning the first ever national championship. Of course, a bid for another one was halted by the outbreak of COVID-19, but you look at what South Carolina has done, and yes, when you've done things like this, you call it an era. It is the Dawn Staley era right now in South Carolina.
Well, I'm going to give you props. You said it was the dawn of time.
It just rolled on. I don't know if that's any good. I mean, they want to use it, go for it, but
it's remarkable, the atmosphere here. When we talk about what Dawn Staley has done, and we're not just talking about for South Carolina athletics, we're talking about from a national perspective. I read an article today where the Lexington newspaper was talking about, is Dawn Staley the villain? And honestly, I read it was like, this is the ultimate compliment, because this is how against South Carolina and Dawn Staley fans in the SEC are, because they know this is the gold standard. This is the one everyone is chasing.
Destiny Littleton in the game. South Carolina's been getting a lot of looks from outside the three-point line, so why not give Destiny Littleton a shot, because she has been a very good three-point shooter. Hasn't played a ton as of late, but there's a role for her in this game as she knocks down the three.
One that rolls always. If a team's playing zone or is sagging off, put Littleton in to knock it down from deep.
Scott Grayson needs help. Gets it from Wells. Koulibaly, open look for three. Again, as Christy mentioned, when you see that shot goes up, there is not a blue jersey in the frame. Sanaya Rivers can't get it. And here come the Tigers. Wiggins. Oh boy. Leah Boston was just going to stand her ground on that one.
And Auburn runs a dribble drive offense, so it's predicated on getting past your defender, getting in the paint, and this is where the help side, the team defense of South Carolina has just been so good so far this evening.
Me here played 2 games for Team Canada. They did qualify for the Women's World Cup coming up in the late summer, and a foul's going to be called here on Auburn. I just want to ask you a follow-up. We were talking about Dawn Staley, and you take a look at the numbers and what this program has done since she's taken over as head coach after having great success at Temple. We hear this word culture a lot. So if we're going to define what the culture she has here, what comes to mind for you? You know, you're here at practices, you talk to her, you talk to these players. What do you see and feel is the culture for South Carolina? What defines it?
I think Dawn does, plain and simple. She's won everywhere. When she speaks, they listen. When she says they have to do this to get to the next level, she has instant credibility. And Eric, I was talking to Bob Starkey, assistant from Auburn, about it today, and he says, our times have changed. You no longer talk about a program, you talk about a team because of the transfer portal. And that's the thing. Dawn's players are staying because they believe in her. They know the opportunity that they have playing under her tutelage in terms of professional careers and competing for national championships.
Here's an offensive rebound and a second chance here for Auburn. Littleton got a hand in there to knock it away, and a foul is called on Auburn. Now, I asked you about the culture. I didn't ask you about Dawn's Twitter game. As you've perhaps heard, when she wants to defend some of her players, she will go to Twitter, and she did that this week, kind of point out some of the things that she thought was a little out of whack when it came to talking about her best player, Leah Boston. We asked her about that today, and she said, I don't want to take anything away from any other player. Obviously, she's coaching players for Team USA. We saw the ring. She wants good players, and she wants to grow to women's games. She just wants the recognition at the level that matches the play of the player who just scored, Aaliyah Boston.
Well, I said it to you. That's being a good head coach, because she protects, she promotes, she supports her young women. And I didn't have any issues with what Dawn said because she's supporting Aaliyah Boston. And what I loved is that she backed it up and said, hey, all these players are great. We just need to talk, and I say this all the time, we need to talk more about our game, our players as a whole. And at the end of the day, it's going to be hard-pressed for someone to tell me that Aaliyah Boston is not the best player in the country. And I'll say she's the most efficient, but most importantly, she is leading the number 1 team in the country.
Sanaya Rivers gets called for the foul. Dawn Staley disagrees out there defending one of her players right now as Koulibaly took it away from Boston on one end and tried to score on the other, and Rivers with the contact.
Koulibaly's trying to be aggressive and get to the rim. And I know up top it looked clean, but Rivers definitely got into the body of Koulibaly on that shot.
Now, Koulibaly was grabbing her arm. Remember, 2 minutes into the game, she turned her ankle. Okay to stay out there. Christy talked about it right at the top of the telecast. Look at this jump for Koulibaly from last year. Now, of course, Unique Thompson was the double-double machine for Auburn over the last several years, so there are more opportunities, but I think she's made the most of it, and she just keeps finding ways to elevate her game, but she just plays so hard, which is one of the things that jumps out about her.
Well, she's being used very differently. under Johnny Harris than she was a year ago. And I asked Johnny Harris, I said, hey, is this just your system or is this you fitting to Coulibaly's skill set? She said, no, I learned this very early from Gary Blair, from Vic Schaefer. You use the talents and the skill sets of your players, and that's exactly what she's doing with Coulibaly.
And a timeout called here by Auburn as Letitia Amihir scored for South Carolina. Put the Gamecocks back up by 12 first half here in Columbia. All right, Drea and Andy, thank you very much. We'll check in with you coming up at halftime, 27-15 our score here with South Carolina up by 12 and a timeout called by Auburn. Not waiting around for the media timeout. Take a look at bracketology. Number 1 team in the country every week of the AP poll. Number 1 in the Nets. South Carolina, number 1, of course, in Charlie's bracketology. Tennessee and LSU also hoping to hold on to those positions so they would host first round games in the NCAA tournament.
Well, I think as you look at Florida right now, you're looking at a team that's looking to continue to move that seed line up. And, Eric, the game that I'm really eager to see tonight is Georgia and Missouri. Both these teams are in a big way looking for a W here this evening.
Both losers of 3 straight. Missouri 6-6. So we'll keep an eye on all those games, and Drea and Andy will have you covered at halftime as well. Out of the Auburn timeout, let's see what they draw up. It's for Sanaya Wells on the baseline for 2.
Well defended by Zaya Cook, just better offense by Wells.
Bree Beal back into the game. Rivers off to Cook.
And Auburn going back to this 2-3 matchup zone.
Beal for Boston. Pushed out by Jayla Jordan. Saxton can't get it the first time, but gets it the second time.
And I think that's a great example of what Dawn Staley was talking to you and I about today, just how well Boston and Saxton play together, play off one another on both ends. Boston pulled the middle of that zone away, leaving it 1-on-1 for Saxton down low.
Sean Bostic, Rivers had it for the moment, picked up by Cook, and then Hughes gets called for the trip.
Not a bad foul by Hughes because that probably saved 2 points in transition.
First foul on Hughes. 3 team fouls now on the Tigers. Boston.
Auburn bringing that double, just trying to get the ball out of Boston's hands.
Boston off the dribble on the drive, and it won't drop for her. She's missed a couple inside, and she's shown her displeasure with that a few times here in the first half, but she will go to the free throw line to shoot a couple. Foul on Jordan, that is her first, and Leah Boston 77% now from the free throw line. That's another part of her game that's really improved. Now up to 5th in the conference in free throw shooting. Next week, Wednesday night men's basketball doubleheader will feature Jabari Smith and second-ranked Auburn. That will be in Game 2 of the double dip. They host Ole Miss at 8:30 Eastern. That's after Mississippi State and South Carolina. You can see both games here on the SEC Network, also on the ESPN app.
With Coulibaly on the bench, offense needs to run through Honesty Scott Grayson.
Knocks it down, 4-2. Scott Grayson, after a slow start, has picked things up now with 8 points. Zaya Cook. Back for Beal. Kick it to the corner to Cook for 3. Zaya Cook has not shot up to what she has done in the past. 29% from outside the three-point line this year, 35% for her career. But if she can find the range here in February and March and into April, watch out, because South Carolina will find another level.
Well, again, what are most teams trying to do right now? They're trying to back it off, pack in the paint, and make you beat them from the outside. So to your point, Eric, it just opens up so many more options for the offense for South Carolina.
Cook with 12, 5 of 8 from the field, 2 of 4 from outside the three-point line.
And Eric, one thing with this 2-3 matchup of Auburn, if you look at the back line, that's 2 guards, 2 smaller size guards. So this is what I want to see. Get the ball inside South Carolina, but take care of it.
Good
Finish.
recovery by Auburn to get the stop on defense. Wells, nope, and Beal's got the rebound.
Nice job by Bostic there in transition defense. I think Beal was ready to hit her teammate on the wing for the open 3.
Boston kicks it. Rivers can't get it. There's Saxton. Had it knocked out of her hands. 14-point lead for South Carolina. South Carolina basketball. This week's Friday Night Heights gymnastics doubleheader starts at 6 Eastern. Florida will be in Lexington to take on Kentucky in the top 10 showdown. Then 7th-ranked Auburn will take on Georgia in Athens right here on the SEC Network. Also on the ESPN app. Amora Graves, a freshman, has come in for Auburn, guarding Beal right now. Cook with a deep 3 with a shot clock down to 4, and it'll be Auburn basketball.
I'll just go back to it right now. I really want to see South Carolina establish low post right now against this zone. Some post-to-post action. I can't say it enough. Due to injuries, Auburn doesn't have much depth at the post position.
How about that? You talk about playing with no fear. Don't be passive. Marshawn Bostic, the freshman, just took it right at South Carolina for 2, and it's a 12-point game. Beal stuck with it, tipped it in.
That's what you call muscling it up, Bree Beal.
First points for Beal, averaging 4.5 a game. Coulibaly. Coulibaly one-on-one with Boston. Bostic. The kick to Graves. Shot clock is at 5. Coulibaly launches. Comes out to Boston. Final minute, second quarter. That's what you were just calling for, right? Get it into the post and let Boston do her thing.
And it's done. When Boston gets the ball that deep in the paint, 2 feet, there's not much anyone in the country can do defensively against her.
Wells. Wells got in a little deep and ran out of room to find Jayla Jordan. And South Carolina will take a timeout, set something up with 17 seconds to go.
Well, Aaliyah Boston gets her body into the post player, shows numbers, easy catch and score for the All-American. And Eric, that last defensive possession for South Carolina, play called by Auburn. They're trying to execute. They can't get into it because they 2 different options trying to enter the pass to the wing. South Carolina gets out in the passing lane, denies it, and basically blows up the play.
So as we've seen Dawn Staley do with a late possession here, takes a timeout. And we'll draw something up here for South Carolina. See Aaliyah Boston, she's missed a couple on the inside that she normally makes. Number 1 in the SEC in field goal shooting at 54%.
You have such a high standard for her.
Well, just because she has a high standard for herself.
True that, true that. But I think it is what we've just come to expect from Aaliyah Boston. She's just been so good so often.
Boston got a hand in there. Meehier looked it off and takes it to the hoop on the drive. Beautiful little fake by Letitia Meehier. We were wondering if she was going to play. She got back to the country on Monday After playing in Japan, we asked Dawn Staley, what time zone is she in? And Dawn Staley said, she's in basketball time zone. It's basketball time. She showed it there. Largest lead of the game for South Carolina at halftime. Drea and Andy. At Colonial Life Arena, Columbia, South Carolina, the number 1 team in the country, the South Carolina Gamecocks, on top by 18 at the break. Eric Freed, Christy Tomascutti back here with you. 18 doesn't sound very close, and I think Auburn did all they could to keep it that way. It was a 6-0 run at the end of the second quarter for South Carolina. I think Auburn's got to be really careful here because it wasn't perfect for South Carolina, and we've seen the Gamecocks come out of the locker room and turn it up a bit.
Well, you've heard me say this. With South Carolina, it's like body blow, and then they go to that bench,
right,
and it's knockout time. And speaking of knockout, Zia Cook presented herself so well in the half-court offense, moved without the ball, came around, presented herself. Great pull-up jumper, out of double teams, out of transition, spotted up, just looked so smooth with that jump shot here this evening.
So Cook with 12 points in the first half to lead all scores. 8 points for Honesty Scott Grayson to lead Auburn. South Carolina shot 40% from the field in the first half. They were 4 of 13 from outside the three-point line. Auburn shot 32%, and they were 1 for 7 from outside the arc. South Carolina basketball, first possession, third quarter. Bree Beal back out to Aaliyah Boston. Boston had 7 in the first half. Coulibaly with the rebound. Coulibaly 5 points, 8 rebounds now for the sophomore. Scott Grayson. Beal stuck with her. Rebound for Bree Beal.
You say stuck with her. I say fought through so many screens to contest that shot by Honesty Scott Grayson.
South Carolina was a plus 15 in rebounding margin in that first half, and they keep adding to it here on the offensive rebound. Henderson, the extra pass, the wide open Cook. Jordan fighting Boston, but Boston wins that fight. Henderson out of the scramble. Boston for 3. Twelfth three-pointer this season for Aaliyah Boston. The crowd gets loud here in Columbia. They're up by 21.
And Eric, that last possession's almost a microcosm of this game. Auburn's not playing poorly, but South Carolina just gives a little bit extra and finished it off with a 3.
Wells can't get it. Another rebound for Aaliyah Boston on that previous trip. Aaliyah Boston got to double range again. Here she is with the mid-range shot that won't drop. So another double-double for Aaliyah Boston. That's 18 in a row. Tough shot. Another rebound for Boston, and here comes Cook. Dribble it off her foot, but there is Saxton to help her out. Beal looks down, sets for 3. South Carolina this season a 44% team from the field. That's third in the SEC. They're below 40% here tonight. And Bree Beal stepped on the baseline. Again, 21 points is the lead, but South Carolina has not been crisp here in the opening couple of minutes of this third quarter. And there you see the double-double leaders this season. Lisa Morrow from DePaul continues to add to her total.
A freshman, mind you. And you're seeing one of those adjustments by Dawn Staley. Her team wants to play faster, so she goes to try to do more full court pressing to speed the opponents up. Jordan
turns on Boston, can't score. Saxton goes down, helped up by Cook. That's not going to stop South Carolina running. They were shorthanded coming down the court because two players were still helping each other up, and they still find a way to score in transition.
So much pressure they put on opponents, and you're seeing this full court pressure. This time Saxton up at the front of it. Coulibaly's got to get involved offensively. I just feel like she's been sped up on the offensive end here this evening.
Crosses over, got around Saxton, but Saxton recovered to get the block, and here comes South Carolina back the other way. Hughes taking the contact, count it, and the foul. Chance for a three-point play for Zia Cook.
Well, from the block, it allows South Carolina to get out and run. Cook through the contact with the and one. Timeout, Auburn.
A person that is a part of Black history that inspires me is someone I see on a daily basis, which is Coach Staley. She continues to show me that she will speak up for what she feels is right and what is on her heart, and she will leave nothing left behind.
Bree Beal. For more storytelling, stream the Black History Always collection on ESPN+. A story told here in Columbia before the game. It did involve Dawn Staley because she was on the court spending time and presenting a ceremonial ball to Dr. Henry Treadwell. Dr. Treadwell in 1962 sued the University of South Carolina for admittance. She was one of 3 black students to enroll in September of 1963, graduated in 1965, went on to earn her master's in biology from Boston University, earned a PhD, incredibly successful, and it started with fighting her way onto this campus those many years ago.
Which just shows you when young people get an opportunity, what can happen. And Eric, I'll take this a step further. We have an African-American head coach here. We have a statue outside of Colonial Life Arena. And it takes a first for great things like what we're witnessing here this evening to come about.
That Asia Wilson statue right out in front here in Columbia. We have 2 African-American women coaching head-to-head in this game. Of course, we all remember what happened in Greenville at the SEC Championship last March when Joni Taylor led her Georgia team against Dawn Staley's South Carolina team.
We talk about it all the time. Representation matters, and I don't know of a better league in the country than the SEC when it comes to that representation matter in terms of our head coaches.
8-0 run to start this quarter for South Carolina. As we mentioned, coming out of halftime, really have to be careful because South Carolina can come out, and again, it hasn't been perfect for them, but it has been pretty darn good on the defensive end, that's for sure. So now I have Fegan into the game for South Carolina. An open look for Cook. She has been on target here tonight for South Carolina. $18 points for Cook. Fegan with the block.
Well, South Carolina puts so much pressure on you. Probably not the smartest move by Anssi Scott-Grayson to challenge 3 Gamecock defenders in the paint. But this is what I mean by they put pressure on you. You feel like you got to score because right now South Carolina is just making everything look so easy on the offensive end.
Anssi Scott-Grayson will bring it back out, defended by Beal. To Wells. Wells got it off, and with the shot clock at 2, she was fouled. It'll be a trip to the free throw line when we come back to Columbia. 50 on the board right now for South Carolina, cruising here in Columbia.
The Tennessee Lady Vols, a program that's long been considered basketball royalty. Tennessee's the 4th back-to-back championship.
But for the last decade, Don Staley and the Gamecocks have joined the elites of the game.
SEC tournament title.
National champion.
College Game Day, covered by State Farm, courtside in Columbia, as two of college basketball's most iconic brands collide.
Well, I got to tell you, they're getting excited around here for game day. And added to that, I mean, just look at this all-star cast. If they weren't excited before, you take a look at that cast that will be here to take you through game day for an hour before the tip on ABC at 1 p.m. Eastern time. Number 12 Tennessee, number 1 South Carolina, a game we had circled on our calendar months ago because they weren't meeting until February the 20th, and we're finally here. We're within a week to that showdown, and to add to the excitement, game day will be here.
ABC.
There's Wells with the first point of the quarter for Auburn. There will also be senior day here Sunday for South Carolina. They will honor Destiny Littleton, Victoria Saxton, Destiny Henderson, and Alyssa Weselick. Lily Grissett is also wrapping up her South Carolina career, but she was honored at senior day last year, so she's not going to double dip. She's not going to take part in the ceremony, but I'm sure they'll make Lily feel a part of it as South Carolina stretches it out to a 30-point lead.
Victoria Saxton on the glass. And Eric, we were talking about during the break, what a great job Saxton has done defensively on Coulibaly. I opened this game talking about how Coulibaly has been such a defensive nightmare for opponents, but Saxton's just got down in a stance and completely contained Coulibaly.
There she is defending Coulibaly. Stuck with her. Coulibaly a little too strong, and now Destiny Littleton waits for help. Back out top, nobody there. Hughes has Scott Grayson up ahead, but Hughes holds on to it for 2.
I think Annie Hughes saw Bree Bill streaking up on that right lane, so that's why she didn't pass. Good job of finishing.
Henderson works it into Fegan, who will go to the free throw line. Foul called on Coulibaly. That'll be her second personal foul. Well, Coulibaly is 2 of 14 from the field. And when you look at Saxton, is she doing? I mean, she's done it at a pretty high level for her 4 years at South Carolina. What sets her apart? What gets her into, when you asked Dawn Staley about her, she starts glowing and starts talking, and then all of a sudden she's going for 10 minutes about Victoria Saxton.
Well, first of all, Saxton's just a gifted athlete. So quick, so explosive off the bounce, but great basketball IQ. And I think she's just a tough, relentless player, which is why Dawn Staley loves her, because you don't win by accident. You've got to have hard-nosed players like her who just chases that offensive rebound down yet again for South Carolina. But when I asked Dawn today, who's going to guard Coulibaly, she said Saxton, without a second guess.
Well, there's 2 things right there. Saxton cleared a path for her teammate, and when her teammate couldn't score, she was there to clean it up. Victoria Saxton into double figures now with 10. And she has been a captain of this South Carolina team for 3 years, since her sophomore year, and that's going to be a foul called on Fegan. But look at this work here by Saxton, doing the little things.
Well, you do the little things, and then you put yourself in a position for amazing plays like this. You almost wonder if she had timed just a half second sooner what might have happened. But that's a great example of just the all-around athleticism of this young lady.
And you just get an idea of how loved she is on this team. And the vibe around this team is pretty good. When you think about so many players trying to get a touch, so many players trying to get their minutes, they're not counting minutes. I mean, that's one of the things for Dawn Staley. She's got that depth, and there's another piece that comes off the bench, and Letitia Mee here, who gets the block, but they're going to call her for a foul.
Well, Ami here doesn't agree with this call. Dawn Staley doesn't agree with this call. All of Colonial Life doesn't agree with this call. And the block was clean. The push, I think, came afterwards.
First personal on me here. And then thrown away by Auburn, so it'll be South Carolina basketball on the baseline. South Carolina trying to take care of business here today, stretch their winning streak to 12, setting up their showdown with Tennessee on Sunday. Cook, tough shot. Zia Cook's making all the shots today. Cook now with 20. It's the first time she's reached the 20-point mark since the Maryland game on December 12th. It had been a while for a prolific scorer like Zia Cook.
Well, earlier after she made her second three, I almost made the comment, look out, because once she gets going, we've known just how hot she can get, and finally Coulibaly gets in on the scoring.
First points of the second half for Coulibaly. Inside of 2 to play, third quarter. Amir has it taken away. Scott Grayson ducks inside, can't get it to spin in, and Fegan's got a rebound.
And Eric, what we're seeing from Auburn now is a number of gimmies that they're missing due to the shot blocking ability, yes, of South Carolina, but also how South Carolina affects those easy opportunities.
A reminder, this is game 1 of our Thursday doubleheader. Texas A&M and Ole Miss standing by in Oxford. We'll get you there, 9 o'clock Eastern time. We mentioned Ole Miss and A&M jostling for position. A&M winners of 3 of their last 4. Tied with Kentucky for 10th. That's a critical spot in the SEC tournament field. And let us be among the first to pay tribute to head coach Gary Blair. It was announced today, good strong take by Bostic for 2. Announced today that it will become Gary Blair Court at Reed Arena. They'll make the dedication in College Station next Thursday before the game with South Carolina. So congratulations to Gary. Pretty good retirement present for him. Get the court named after you at Reed Arena.
So deserving. Everything that Gary Blair has done, not just for Texas A&M, but also for the game of women's basketball.
Gary would appreciate that sentiment from you. I think he appreciates the fact that more along the lines that his team is playing the way he hoped they would have played in the early part of the season. So maybe finding their way here in February and into March. And as a result, perhaps finding their way into the NCAA tournament. Wells launches for 2. And Amihir's got the rebound. Final 10 seconds of the quarter. Rivers, no. The follow is tipped and short, and that will do it for the third quarter. South Carolina outscored Auburn 18-7 in that quarter. Dialing up the defense. We head to the fourth with Carolina up big. All right, Dre, thanks very much for keeping an eye on that one. Tennessee coming off back-to-back wins, the second-place team in the SEC. But if they lose today, Florida has already won, so it'll be Florida and Tennessee tied for second place, remarkably, in the conference. As you take a look at the bracketology and the top 8 teams, the 1 seeds and the 2 seeds. Stanford and Carolina have been so consistent. Stanford, the number 2 team in the country. We'll have them on ESPN2. Christy and I are heading out to Eugene, Oregon for the Stanford-Oregon matchup on Sunday afternoon. I know a lot of people are just thinking it's South Carolina and Stanford on a collision course to meet in the Final Four. Still a lot of basketball to be played between now and then, but you have to be impressed with South Carolina's defense, taking care of business here against Auburn here, and their depth. And you'll get a close-up look at Stanford coming up on Sunday.
Well, Eric, I've said to you, there have been 2 consistent teams this entire season, South Carolina and Stanford. And why? Because these are 2 teams that defend and they rebound. And as we see Tennessee struggling in their game, it's even more of why I so appreciate this South Carolina team is that whether it's the depth, the quality of bench, they don't take nights off. They come to play because as you alluded to earlier, they want playing time, and there's only one way to play under Dawn Staley, and that's quality team defense, and then look to execute on offense.
Amir here has it knocked away. Here comes Koulibaly in transition. 4-2. I think you said a key word, the depth. I mean, both teams, Stanford's got great depth. South Carolina's got great depth. Like, you can look at their starting fives and then the next five for each team, and that next five could be a top 25 team. I mean, that's how much quality depth these two teams have.
I've had two different head coaches in the SEC say South Carolina has the top team in the country, and their second five could very well be the second best team in the country.
Lily Grissett tucks it away, throws it up, can't get it with the shot clock winding down. Charlie Cream's going to be burning the midnight oil tonight because the Louisville Cardinals lost to North Carolina today. That's the number 3 team in the country, so Louisville goes down. Florida, as we mentioned before, with a win over Arkansas, they've won 5 in a row. I mean, if things fall the right way, Christy, when you take a look at the SEC tournament, the top 4 seeds could be set by the end of tonight.
Well, and let's not
somebody crunch those numbers for me. I mean, you could have South Carolina, Tennessee, Florida, and LSU. Again, this is not the last weekend; it's next weekend. But really, there's a path for 1 through 4, and that coveted double bye being locked down tonight with the Florida win, and LSU is playing Mississippi State. That's a later game. They pushed the start time back of that game because of bad weather in Starkville. So LSU and Mississippi State getting going 8:30 Eastern time. But take a look at the top 8 in the SEC standings.
Well, if the Tennessee score holds, Florida would technically have, and again, if things ended today, Florida would have that 2 seed because of the head-to-head with Tennessee.
Right. Arkansas is now 6-6, so that gives a little bit more separation there. And as we mentioned, Ole Miss taking on A&M. There is Wiggins for 2.
I mean, the big game that really will determine the order of those top 4 will be Florida going to LSU.
That's coming up on Sunday. Here's Hall. Lily Grissett for 2.
If you ever wonder who the crowd favorite is here in Colonial Life Arena, a couple of possessions ago, Lily Grissett got the ball in the short corner, didn't shoot, and the fans let her know about it.
So we have a stoppage here. If they're adjusting something with the clock, but with that stoppage, gives a chance for Dawn Staley to make a sub, and Alyssa Weselick will come into the game now with 7:50 to go in the 4th quarter. So just 20 minutes played by Aaliyah Boston tonight. 10 points, 12 rebounds, 21 minutes for Henderson. Cook, 20 points in 23 minutes of play.
So you're saying efficient.
Efficient, and they will be well rested for that Sunday showdown with Tennessee.
Well, I think that's another, when we talk about the depth of South Carolina. Dawn Staley holds nothing back. She goes, we are building for March. And we've seen it with the youth getting more minutes in the last couple of weeks. She wants this team prepared for anything that March throws at them, and half of that battle is being well rested.
Brissett's coming out. Could be a blood situation here as Craig Oates, the athletic trainer, jumps up. And yeah, that is indeed the case. So Fegan will come back into the game. Will play on. But we asked Dawn today, who's your most improved players? And to your point about these younger players getting more time over these last several weeks, she said Sanaya Rivers and Bree Hall. A couple of freshmen who maybe weren't getting the minutes early, but they've been getting the minutes, and those have been building up over the last several weeks. Well, they've had a chance to show what they can do.
To truly say what Dawn said, her first name was Victoria Saxton. Because then she said, do you mean this season or overall?
Well, I mean, yes, it was a two-pronged question. I'm going with...
I got to give Saxton love anytime I can. But then she also threw one other player in there.
If we're going by the book here, I think someone else threw in that play.
That's true. Touche. That would be my partner, Eric Freed.
Well, I mean, the name you could say is one of the most improved players in the league, as Bostic throws it up and it's pulled down by Fegan, is indeed Aaliyah Boston. And it's maybe you chuckle at that because she's been playing at such a high level since her freshman year. But when you look at it, and I know you've broken down so many of the different parts of her game, she has elevated her game and she's taken it to yet another level right now.
Absolutely. I mean, numbers are up across the board. Field goal percentage, 3-point field goal percentage, rebounds, points against double teams. And yet, the key word I'm going to use to describe Aaliyah Boston is efficiency. She's not forcing the action. She's taking what the defense gives her, and yes, 18 straight double-doubles.
Including her double-double here today with 10 points and 12 boards. Hall. Back for Wesselik inside of 6 minutes to go here in the fourth quarter. Fegan. Batted back out with 5 on the shot clock. Hall has it knocked away. And here comes Bostic. Bostic to the basket for 2.
Bostic's just a young player for Auburn that I see growth game in and game out. Not making some of the same mistakes that she made earlier this season. So quick, so explosive.
She's had a couple good games against good teams, too. 9 points and 4 steals in that win over Tennessee. Brissett couldn't hold on to it. Here's Graves. Remember, Auburn has 2 wins over top 25 teams this year. They beat Tennessee. They also beat Georgia Tech earlier in the season. Bostic had 4 points, 3 steals, and 2 assists in that game. So certainly moments to build on. Precious Johnson can't get it to drop, and a rebound for Hall. Knocked out of bounds. It'll be South Carolina basketball when we come back. Gamecocks rolling here on their home floor towards their 12th straight win, up by 30 in the fourth. Beautiful day here in Columbia. Temperatures in the 70s. It's been a comfortable night for South Carolina. Aaliyah Boston, 10 points, 12 rebounds for Boston in her 20 minutes. That's double-double number 19 on the season, 18 in a row, and knocking on the Sylvia Fowles record door here heading into Sunday's game.
Well, I had the opportunity to talk to Associate Head Coach Bob Starkey of Auburn today, who coached Sylvia Fowles. And I said, talk to me about, from a defensive perspective, because Bob Starkey is the defensive guru in the SEC, what it's like to defend Aaliyah Boston. He said she is a generational type of player. And he went on and on about what she does offensively. He said, but hey, that's just on the offensive end. What she does for this Gamecock team defensively is truly remarkable. The quarterback talks all the time, gets her teammates in the right place. And again, when Bob Starkey gives you praise as a defensive player, it's high praise.
He's seen a player or two in his time. Johnson on the follow, couldn't get it to go, and a foul is called on Auburn as you take a look at Bob Starkey in his first year as the associate head coach at Auburn. Handles the defense, and he's tried to figure out game plans to slow down generational talents in his day, and he's coached generational talents, as you mentioned, at this time with Sylvia Fowles.
I want to cap it off because his last comment to me, he said, Boston's a multi-dimensional player. He said, I don't know of another 5 player that can do as much as she does.
Olivia Thompson has come on for South Carolina. Destiny Littleton back on the floor for the Gamecocks as well. Here is Littleton, who sets for 3. Second three-pointer for Littleton. Now, the starters have had plenty of time to work on their bench mob stuff, okay? So I don't know if it needs work or if that was what they were trying to execute right there. Annie Hughes. Hughes with the pull-up for 2. 4 points now for Hughes. No one in double figures for Auburn. Coulibaly the closest with 9, but South Carolina has really paid defensive attention to her right from the start. Coulibaly 4 of 18 from the field. Kick to Littleton. Can't hit that three. That's Weselick with the offensive rebound. Stripped by Bostic. Bostic, good dish to Wiggins. 2 more for Hughes.
Annie Hughes has just been so steady for this Auburn ball club this season. Just heady.
Done a great job taking care of the basketball for Auburn. Came into the game with 42 assists and just 17 turnovers. There's Lily Grissett with a move on the low post. That's going to be an interesting number that when you look at the stat sheet, Auburn is committed just 5 turnovers here today, yet they're down by 31 here at South Carolina.
It's just been, 23 offensive rebounds for South Carolina. It's difficult to stay in a game when a team gets that many second chance opportunities.
Rivers to Littleton. And a stoppage of play so Auburn could clear out their bench. Next week, men's basketball doubleheader will feature the number 2 team in the country, the Auburn Tigers, and their fabulous freshman Jabari Smith. That will be game 2 of the doubleheader. South Carolina takes on Mississippi State in game 1. It all gets started at 6:30 Eastern time here on the SEC Network and also on the ESPN app. And Aya Russell has come on for South Carolina. There's a rare turnover in this game for Auburn, and Russell, the microwave, checks in and is taking a shot, making a shot.
South Carolina comes into this evening averaging 21 points a night in bench points. We talk about the depth and what it can do to you from a wearing down perspective, but these young ladies can also score.
And I touched on it before that Letitia Amihir was back from Japan after playing with Team Canada. South Carolina did not have Camila Cardozo able to play here today. She was with Brazil and Serbia at the FIBA World Cup qualifier. She played very well, but Brazil went 0-3. But you can see Camila, she's got the boot on the left foot, so unable to go here today for South Carolina. Average better than 11 points and 8.5 rebounds in Brazil's 3 games in Serbia in that qualifier.
So I'm going to give a synopsis of the depth of South Carolina. 36 paint points with 8 blocks without your second best or I should say your best post player off the bench.
I think right now they're looking to get Olivia Thompson or Alyssa Weselick on the stat sheet here as we approach a minute to go. Littleton to Weselick. Fed into Grissett. Littleton has it knocked away, and it's picked up by Auburn. Here's Bostic. Trip to the free throw line coming for Marshawn Bostic. Bostic will go to the line next up for Johnny Harris's team. They will host 21st ranked Georgia on Sunday and then host Ole Miss next Thursday before wrapping up the regular season at Kentucky. Monday night, 7 Eastern here on the SEC Network. 3.5-hour recap of this year's men's and women's swimming and diving championships. Florida Gators have won the last 9 titles on the men's side. Kentucky, the defending champs, on the women's side.
Well, the second loudest applause behind Lily Grissett tonight was the 2 missed free throws by Bostic, because that means everyone in the house gets free Chick-fil-A.
And you'll be in the first in line for that. Drop down to Weselick, and she scores. 11 points now this season for the senior, who will be among the honorees, as we mentioned, on Senior Day on Sunday. What a big day it will be here in Columbia. Get started with College Game Day here in the building. And then at 1 o'clock Eastern Time, Tennessee and South Carolina on ABC. That ends out of play. It'll be South Carolina basketball. They could dribble out the clock.
If I didn't have a game, I would be here on Sunday. Such great growth for the game of women's basketball.
South Carolina with another impressive performance on defense, holding Auburn to a season-low 38 points. 75-38 the final.
When you play defense like South Carolina, when you rebound like South Carolina, you got a chance every night. But when you're making buckets, it makes it almost impossible for any opponent.
For Christy Thomas-Cuddy and our crew, I'm Eric Freed. 75-38 the final. 12 wins in a row for South Carolina. Now back to Trey and Andy in the studio.
Speaking of Zia Cook, she joins us now. Zia, just a phenomenal performance on your end. 20 points, 8 of 14. What was working for you offensively tonight?
I think just finding my flow, keeping everything clean, listening to what Coach asked of me, and just translating everything I've done in practice into the game.
Zia, I'm going to ask you the same question that people ask me all the time about South Carolina. What impresses you the most about South Carolina?
I think how humble and aggressive we are. We don't take any practices off. We work hard together. We help each other as teammates, and we just have good chemistry.
Zia, we were watching, and they were cutting the camera sometimes to your bench as the second unit was in and some of your reserve players were in, and all of you were locked in, smiling, cheering for your teammates. How together is this season's team?
I think that's what it's all about. I think what makes great team is teammates that are there for each other, help each other, and listen to each other. And I think we have the full package when it comes to that, and I think it will carry us a long way.
Describe to me the way you think your team looks and what you're doing when you're playing your best basketball.
Coach asks us to be clean. She wants us to play clean basketball, so that's what we're trying to do. She wants us to get to the point to where we're playing our best basketball now, so when it comes that time, we can play great basketball. So that's definitely what we're trying to do, is just find that way to play great basketball as a team.
Well, wait a minute, Zia. Clean? Did you say clean?
Clean.
Well, you got to break that down for me. What does clean even mean?
Yep. Clean basketball is just taking the right shots, not doing too much, just seeing what's open, taking what the defense is giving you, and it just looks clean.
Well,
it just looks clean out there.
I can tell you this much: you were clean tonight.
Thank you,
Zia. You were clean. You had Aaliyah Boston and Victoria Saxton cleaning up on the glass constantly. Just a phenomenal win for South Carolina, for your Gamecocks. Congrats.
Thank you.